Hi guys, welcome to class. This week we're learning about a particular type of poetry. Now this is a concept that I want to come back to. I know that we already wrote some poems back in, I believe it was December, but poetry is really a form of creative writing that forces you to think about the most important uses of words. So it's all about language, using strong, important words, putting them together in a way that feels really meaningful. Again, we're not talking about that old, meaningless poetry from the 1800s that you find boring. We're talking about poetry the way it should be, the way it should feel. Clear, direct, to the point. It brings out emotions in us. That's what we're looking for. Now, the poetry that we did back in December, you created on your own. So you thought of a theme, you came up with an image, you developed some lines for that, and then you went back and you revised and revised and revised to get rid of weak words and to put in strong words. This is going to be so much simpler. It's a lot of fun, and there's inspiration already in what you're doing because you're not the one choosing the words. So newspaper blackout poems. The concept is you take a text that already exists and you pick words out of it, and then you get rid of the words you don't want. So you're not technically creating the words on your own, you're finding words that are already there to create something new, okay? Now, the process, you take published works, so you just take something that already exists out there. They say newspaper articles, that's how this idea started. A novel, horoscopes, a magazine. You could use your mom's grocery list. You could use a homework assignment that you were given. Anything with words on it can be used to create a blackout poem. And then you use only carefully selected words. That's really important. So you want to choose your words wisely to create something new. We don't want to steal from the people. So there's a fine line here between plagiarism and creation. You don't want to steal what they're already saying and just change it. You want to take the words they've used to create something entirely new. Let's take a look at this poem over on the right-hand side to start giving you an idea of what this looks like. Nothing is like I think it is. I never imagined anger is the machine that kills. As you can see, there were full sentences here. This was like a paragraph or multiple paragraphs. And somebody chose these words at different points to get across the message that they wanted to get across, okay? Now, this one is called Creativity is Subtraction by Austin Kleon. If you choose to do the optional activity of learning the background about blackout poetry, Austin Kleon is the guy who created it. So here's this poem. Anyone can scribble out words. The clever part is knowing which words to leave. Now, what I want to emphasize on this one is that when we are writing blackout poetry, when we are reading blackout poetry, we still move in the same direction that we always move when we read. So we go from left to right, and we go from top to bottom. So I went through and I highlighted those words in the order I would read them. I'm going to read it one more time, and I'm going to underline them so that you can see it again. Anyone can scribble out words. The clever part is knowing which words to leave. So you still see that I still move from top to bottom, left to right when I'm reading. Sometimes it can get frustrating because the words that you want are out of order. I'll show you what to do with that in a bit. But for the basic kind of method of creating a blackout poem, we move from top to bottom, left to right, okay? This genre of poetry tends to be positive. I'm going to add in here, or really sad, because some people definitely take it in that direction. It's kind of left up to you. So take a look at this one here. I dream of words spoken into infinite space, glittering on with heavy beauty and shadow and no shame. So this is one of them that we could see as maybe a bit more positive or uplifting. whether we admit it or not, we do try to conceal what's stored in our minds. With this particular poem, what I want to emphasize here is that sometimes we can keep a whole phrase, and that is perfectly fine, as long as, again, we're not plagiarizing, we're not stealing the ideas of what somebody is sharing, okay? Also, as you're probably starting to see, when we do a blackout poem, I'll do this one in green. When we do a blackout poem, it's really clear, it's really easy to see which words we're supposed to read. Agreed? So when you're mapping it out, when you're planning it, you're going to use a pencil to start in case your idea ends up changing. And you're going to box in the words you want to use. So you would go through like this. Ooh, well, you'd do a better job than I do. And you'd box in those words you want to use. And then you would go through and as neatly as possible, you would try to black out everything else so that it's really clear which words we want to look at. Okay? This is an example from a really old book, a book by Sylvia Plath. Let's take a look at this poem. I set out for a noiseless room. Then I remember the silence depressed me. So when we were learning about flash fiction the day before the school shut down, one of the things that we learned about in flash fiction is that there should be some sort of shift, is what they called it. And that's something that ultimately we see as unexpected. So here, you see, I set out for a noiseless room. So somebody is searching for, they're looking for a quiet space. And it says, then I remember the silence depressed me. So it was like the opposite. So we're left with some sort of epiphany or realization at the end of a blackout poem sometimes. Now, this is a great one because it emphasizes the fact that you are not limited in the possibilities. You can include anything that is there. I have seen blackout poems that include the page number at the bottom of the page. This one includes the titles, which is a really effective way to write a poem sometimes. Even in failure, there are snippets of hope. This can have great meaning. Again, this is a version that is a little bit more positive for us. Now, this is an important one, an important concept to understand here. You can create words with nearby letter combinations. You do not want to do this too much, or it can become very difficult for somebody to read and understand your poem, but every once in a while you can do it. We see it here with this word, let. This might have originally been the word left, L-E-F-T, but you can see they got rid of the F perhaps because they wanted the word let. They also needed the word it, somewhere between let and fall, and it probably wasn't there, it didn't exist, but they had the word I and then something that began with a T, maybe it was I think, and so they boxed it together so it is one word now, and we can read it as the word it. This would not work if, say, the I was up here and the T was down here, and you boxed each of them in. That would be trickier for people to understand. The reason why this works is because they're right next to each other. So you can't always make it work, but sometimes you can. Now, let's take a look at this poem. When I see what we call low-hanging fruit, I think, let it fall and rot. Ooh, you guys know me well enough to know that I like kind of some intense, negative, angry sort of text sometimes, and this one is definitely that. So we see it's not always those positive ones. So now, as we are moving forward, and you're going to create your own blackout poems, here's the strategy that I think works best. So I would start by thinking about what your purpose is. Do you want to get across a feeling? Do you want to get across a theme? That's a bit more complicated. Or do you want to demonstrate an understanding of the original story? And that, if you come down here and you look at your options, those are the two ways people have used blackout poetry. To show the main idea of what the text already is, or to create something new. For us, in our purposes, I don't care about what the main text is saying. I want you to create something completely new and original. So you want to come in here and decide, do you want to get across a feeling or a theme? Then you need to find a text to work with. For this week, I'm giving you those texts. If you want to move beyond that and find something on your own, go ahead. You can look again anywhere that there are words. You can create a blackout poem, okay? Number 3, start with a word that catches your attention. That is the best advice I can give you, is pick a strong word. And from that word, you're going to start to form your poem. And then start underlining words that connect. Underline words that connect. You might not use them all, but you want to try to eliminate basically the words you don't want. So you're focusing in on any words you might use, okay? And then always have a plan before you start blacking out poems, because you might still need a word and you don't want to have already blacked it out, or you could have destroyed your poem. So always start with a pencil. We're doing a lot of this online, so you've got Notability. You can erase things if you need to. But when you do it on actual paper, if that's how you choose to do it this week, make sure that you always use a pencil so that you can change and adapt and revise things as you go. It's not final until you use a Sharpie, and then all of a sudden it's final. So be careful there, okay? Now, the next step here. This is going to be your next activity in class. You can do it today right after watching this video, or you can do it later. You're going to practice by using this online website. So let's take a minute to look at that now. It's from the New York Times, and they have a whole bunch of poems. So you can sort of scan through here and you'll find a whole bunch of different, they're not poems, they're articles. And you get to take the article that you want, and if you click on any word, it starts to pop up. Does everybody see that? So this is a fun way to just sort of practice blackout poetry with some new texts. I don't know how many articles they pull through in here, but I'm always seeing new ones. So let's take a look. Let's pull up a blank one so you know I haven't seen it before, okay? You want to start by finding a word that seems important, has some sort of emotion. It's a good, strong word. So I look here and I see the word broken, and that stands out to me. Broken. Pretty patterns. Broken, pretty patterns. Detect. I'm looking at all these words to see if I can make something that makes sense. That's important. So broken, pretty patterns, detect the ratio of, no, I don't think I can make it work. So let me get rid of a few of these things. That's why this is such a great one to use, is because it doesn't limit you. Once things are blacked out, you get to go in and kind of make changes. Maybe I can say the broken. Let's see if I can find the word the. Maybe this. This broken age is not perfect. This broken age is not perfect, but can reveal this broken age is not perfect, but can reveal tells. This broken age is not perfect, but can reveal tells. Nah, I don't think I like that. This broken age is not perfect, but can, or but is, but does. This broken age is not perfect, but does. I wanted to say something, the brave, maybe? The braves. But, Guys, I'm struggling. I wish you were here in class with me so that we could figure it out together. This broken age is not perfect. Let's get rid of the but. Maybe I'm limiting myself. This broken age is not perfect, but most are. I like that. This broken age is not perfect. Oh, but most are. So in that scenario, then, we see that it's kind of got that twist ending, which I love. Okay, now, you're going to be working on that on your own in the next activity, and you can read the directions for that, and I'll show you the website again in that activity. Moving forward, though, I do want to emphasize that we can incorporate visuals into Blackout poems. I'm not going to require you to do this. I am going to suggest it for our final Blackout poem if you are the type of person that has that creative kind of vision for how you can incorporate those images. So it's the same strategy, except when I had before said plan before you start blacking things out, there's just an added step in here. You want to sketch out an image that connects to your poem before you black it out. Now, my suggestion is first pick out your words. Some people start with an image. Don't do that because then you're limiting yourself. You don't know where the poem's going to take you. Start by picking out your words, then come up with the image, then sketch it in, and then black it out. Okay, so you don't want to just automatically black it out. Make sure that you sketch it first so that you've got an idea. Let's take a look at this poem here. This one uses a page number, you see. 267. I wouldn't go that far. So long as you avoid evil, I do think that sneaky is the way to go. Well, whatever happens, keep me posted. I am curious, although I don't want to get too close. Not everybody finds somebody that they can be happy being miserable with. Man, isn't that powerful? And it's amazing to think that it came from a text that was completely unrelated to what that poem ends up being. And it's got this image of a hand here and then a rose with a heart down at the bottom. So think about how you can add depth or meaning to your poem and make those ideas connect. It can also tell us a story. So I love this one for a couple of reasons. It reads, he saved the day, and then they were married. Now the pirates are after his organs. So just kind of a weird little story that they've got there, kind of like flash fiction. We get those details, but we have to fill in a lot of the blanks as well. And again, with these images, we can see it's connected. So here they're talking about pirates, and we've got like a little map going on here. It doesn't have to be difficult either. I'm not the best drawer by any stretch of the imagination, but I can certainly draw some squiggles that look like a landmass and then some waves. So if I can do it, I know that you can too. Expressing an emotion is a really great way to go with one of these poems, and the images can help us do that as well. So take a look at this one. I was still for some reason linked with her eyes. I was still for some reason linked with her eyes. And then we've got this image here of a person's face, and obviously a lot of emphasis on the eyes here. You could describe a scene or an image. A flawless sky sunk in the sand, a mind clouded with shooting flames. And again, as far as the drawing goes, I'm trying to show you some examples here that are really simple. Can you draw squiggly lines? Yeah, I have faith in all of you. Could you draw a half circle? Can you draw little lines coming out? Yeah. So you don't have to do the image, but if you want to, I think that all of you are capable of doing so. This one's a little bit more sophisticated and fancy for those of you that are capable of doing that. Let's take a look at this poem. A wind traveling about in a cool December sky swirled into nothingness. It gave way to a story deep in her heart. And then these are a few extra examples for you to see as well. These are ones that I will make sure that they are fit to the page in your copy that I attached to the assignment. Now, let me just emphasize a couple of things here, okay? So First of all, when you are creating a poem, make sure that you choose a strong word, that's how you begin. You pick a strong word to start, you revise, you edit, and you can get to something that works really well. Then make sure it makes sense. So sometimes there are words that are really great or that we think are wonderful, but if people won't understand it, if you don't have those linking words so that it makes sense, it's not really going to do much for anybody. Really try to think about the mood here. We've got an activity later on in the week that will help you think about mood and how it connects to our poems. But poetry in general is supposed to be very emotional. So think about those moods that you can create here. No fluff. So this would be like in writing an essay for class, how you think, I've only got 4 sentences in this paragraph. I'm going to try to get it up to 7. So you just write nonsense. You just write things just to fill in the space. We don't want that. Every word that you choose has to be meaningful. It has to be important. It has to make sense, okay? And then finally, have fun with this, guys. I'm doing this on purpose because I know learning from home can be really hard. I know that this is probably difficult and awful for you because you're sitting at home and you'd rather play games or talk to your friends or take a nap or watch TV or whatever. Give this a shot, give it a chance, have some fun with it, and I think you might really come to love it and to enjoy it, okay? Now, your task, just to prove to me that you've watched the whole video, that you know what's going on for this week, is tell me what you're excited about for Blackout Poetry. Or, if you can't think of anything, tell me like how excited you are. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not excited and 5 being very excited, how excited are you to try to create some Blackout poetry on your own? So you've got 2 options there. You can either tell me what you're excited about for Blackout poetry, or tell me how excited you are for Blackout poetry. Not excited at all or very excited. And that's how you guys will prove to me that you watched this whole video, okay? Any questions, feel free to reach out. Let me know. I'm here to help, and I want you guys to enjoy this week, okay?